morning. I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views. First on the news, former House Speaker Martin Romualdez is pushing back amid his link to the flood control scandal, denying the allegations and naming other figures he says played key roles in the controversial budget process. Here's the report.
For a long time, I chose to remain silent. I did so out of respect for the legal process. I did so because I did not want to add more noise to an already divisive issue. My silence has been abused and weaponized to build a narrative that is false, twisted, and unfair. So let me be clear, I will not keep quiet anymore.
That was former House Speaker Martin Romualdez breaking his silence after being linked to the flood control scandal. The issue also became the basis for the Ombudsman's move that prevented Romualdez from traveling to Singapore earlier today, where he was supposed to undergo follow-up treatment for his angioplasty. But questions were raised, why was Romualdez stopped when what existed at the time was only an immigration lookout bulletin order and no formal case had yet been filed against him? Documents released show how Speaker Bogie D had approved Romualdez's travel clearance, covering his trip to Singapore until May 4 for his long-delayed angioplasty follow-up. But Ombudsman Boying Remulla defended the move.
We did not respond favorably to the request that he be allowed to leave because, magkakaroon na naman ng haka-haka at kuro-kuro yan. Mabuti nang sana naman, dito lang siya magpa-check up.
Romualdez's lawyer, Attorney Aide Fajardo, argued an immigration lookout bulletin order does not automatically bar a person from leaving the country, but only requires prior coordination with authorities. By afternoon, the Ombudsman announced it had asked the Sandigan Bayan to issue a precautionary whole departure order, or PHDO, against Romualdez. In its application, the Ombudsman said there is a preliminary finding of probable cause or plunder, direct and indirect bribery, violations of the anti-graft law, and money laundering. It is said that it was based on evidence gathered in its preliminary investigation, a move strongly opposed by Romualdez.
To the Ombudsman, I say this with full respect. If your office truly believes in justice, then follow the sworn statements, follow the records, and follow the evidence all the way. Do not stop where it is politically convenient. What I ask of the Office of the Ombudsman is simple. Follow the rule of law and due process.
If granted, the PHDO would formally prevent Romualdez from leaving the country while the investigation continues. Romualdez is one of those named by Zaldico who accused him of being the alleged mastermind behind the 100 billion pesos in alleged budget insertions in the 2025 national budget. Co also claimed suitcases of cash were allegedly delivered to Romualdez's residence. But Romualdez denied the allegations.
How can I be the mastermind? I was the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, but the House of Representatives is only one part of the branch of government, the legislature. The budget does not begin in the House. It begins in the executive.
Romualdez insisted he was not part of the bicameral conference committee, which finalizes the national budget for presidential approval. He also named Zaldico and then Senate President Cheese Escudero.
Records would show that I did not participate in those meetings and I was not privy to what exactly transpired during the deliberations. Two people were instrumental in making those budget decisions, Cheese Escudero and Zaldico.
Romualdez also took a swipe at Navotas Representative Toby Tiangco.
And Representative Toby Tiangco, who has been very vocal and upfront on this issue over the past months, was himself a vice chair of the Appropriations Committee in the previous Congress. If there were real concerns about irregularities in the budget process, why were these not formally raised during the deliberations or even during the plenary?
He also vowed not to allow himself to be used as a scapegoat.
I will not allow myself to be turned into the scapegoat so that others who are actually accountable can walk away clean. Then I'm telling everyone now, I will not go quietly and I will not go alone. I will not be the fall guy for other people's corruption. The real corruption does not happen at the level of the general legislative approval alone. It happens at the level of execution I know many things about this current administration and past administrations as well.
Beyond the whole departure order, the Ombudsman also asked the Anti-Money Laundering Council to seek a freeze order on Romualdez's assets. But his lawyer said they have received no official notice regarding any such application.
Parang gusto ko malaman ano ibig sabihin ni Congressman
I know
Romualdez
a lot.
about the current and past administration, di ba? Parang should we take it as na may ilalaglag siya sa current? Or
Parang ganun na nga kasi sabi niya, I will not go down alone, di ba? I will not allow to be
sabi
the
niya,
scapegoat.
it's not part of the corruption, but
Yes.
the words, I will not go down alone. May small part ka ba? O, di ba? But let's see kung ano yung magiging statement niya. Sana we hear his side para makita natin yung bigger picture. And kung mapauwi sometime in the future si Saldico,
Si Zaldico.
then maybe the pieces of the puzzle slowly na mabubuo natin.
Alright.
All right, the next impeachment hearing against Vice President Sara Duterte is set to focus on allegations of unexplained wealth, including questions on her SALN disclosures. Let's watch this.
Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Good morning. Good morning. Before anything else, it is important that we begin by looking back. Because the work we have today is anchored on what has already been laid on record. Noong nakaraang pagdinig, April 14, we began by affirming our constitutional mandate, our exclusive power to initiate all cases of impeachment. Nasa atin ang unang galaw, nasa atin ang direksyon, at hawak natin ang beat. Ngunit nabanggit din natin na malinaw ang limitasyon ng ating papel sa yugtong ito. Hindi pa ito paghuhusga. Our task at this stage is simply to determine probable cause kung may sapat na batayan upang magpatuloy. As Congressman Benny Abante stated, sisilipin natin kung may usok. Dahil kung may usok, tungkulin nating hanapin kung nasaan ang sunog. During our last hearing, we formally recognized the complainants, Father Sabalia and his group, and of course, Attorney Cabrera. All of them were present, ready to face this committee and stand by their complaints. But there was one thing we could not ignore. Something that was right in front of us. The empty chair of the Vice President. Wala po siya nitong nakaraan. Habang nandito ang mga nagrereklamo, ang tanging humarap sa atin ay isang bakanteng upuan. And yet, with or without the presence of the Vice President, with or without her cooperation, tuloy ang mandato ng komite. At umusad nga ang ating pagdinig noong araw na iyon. First, we formally received subpoena documents, all of which are now part of our record. Second, we heard a statement of Ramil Madriaga, who testified for the very first time in a public hearing. Through his supplemental affidavit, we were confronted with a staggering allegation that confidential funds were spent not just in 11 days, but were purportedly disposed of within a mere 24 hours. Hindi 11 araw, sa halip 24 oras. Milyones na naubos sa loob lamang ng isang araw. Mabigat ang mga binitiwang salita ni Ramil Madriaga at minsan pa siyang naiyak habang binabasa ang kanyang supplemental affidavit. To back his words, he signed a bank waiver to prove that he has nothing to hide. During one exchange, Congresswoman Janet Garin recalled the Farmally controversy and could not hide her frustration upon hearing Ramil Madriaga's allegation that the Vice President's campaign may have been financed by Farmally, an assertion that, if proven, further deepens the seriousness of the issues now before this committee. Third, and with the help of Congressman Joel Chua, we have adopted the records from the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability, the testimonies of various resource persons regarding the envelopes and the questionable receipts and other statements given in that legislative inquiry are now officially part of this impeachment process. Fourth, we heard from the NBI expert, and their findings are very clear. Kinumpirma nila na base sa kanilang pagsusuri, several question signatures were actually signed by one and the same person. This proves that there was a pattern, and it raises even more questions about who was really behind these documents. Magkakaiba ang mga pangalan, ngunit iisa ang perma. I will repeat, magkakaiba ang mga pangalan, ngunit iisa ang perma. Fifth, we heard from a representative of the PSA who confirmed that several personalities appearing in the records have no corresponding entries in official civil registries. Kabilang dito ang kontrobersyal na pangalang Mary Grace Piatos na batay sa kanilang verifikasyon ay walang umiiral na PSA record. Si Mary Grace Piatos ay wala sa data ng PSA. Sixth, we heard from Attorney Gloria Camora of the COA, who confirmed that the Commission proper has resolved the Vice President's appeal on the notice of disallowance, effectively affirming that this allowance covering more than 73 million pesos. She further disclosed that the COA has issued 3 additional notices of disallowance, indicating continued deficiencies in compliance. These developments lend significant weight to the financial irregularities under examination. As noted by Congressman Chel Jokno and Congressman Antonio Tino, this effectively render the Vice President liable to return all these amounts. 73 million pesos plus 375 million pesos to the National Treasury. Ang Vice Presidente ay may pananagutan na ibalik ang 73 million plus 375 million, total of 448 million sa ating National Treasury. And when we heard all these resource persons, the committee will note that while I disallowed certain probing questions to ensure fairness, I nonetheless permitted all inquiries that sought to clarify the truth. On that note, the records will reflect that the arguments regarding the difference between credibility and character, as well as the confusion between page numbers and dates, were stricken from the record. We have done this to maintain the integrity and order of these proceedings. Sa kabuuan, what we saw was not a single piece of evidence, but a body of evidence. Hindi pa isa-isa, kundi magkakaugnay. But after the hearing, the story did not end there. Sa katunayan, doon pa lamang nagsimula ang mas malakas na ingay sa labas. Marami ang nagulantang, marami ang nag-react. The hearing became the subject of headlines, discussions, statements, particularly from the Vice President. However, it is worth noting that instead of addressing the core issues, the focus shifted to a peripheral matter, ang academic performance umano ng Vice Presidente nung siya'y nag-aaral pa. Samantalang, ang mas mabibigat na usapin tungkol sa confidential funds, sa mga dokumento, sa mga transaksyon ay nananatiling hindi direktang nasasagot. Kumbaga, sa 100 ebidensya, isa lang ang pinupunteriya. Let me be clear. This committee will not take anything at face value, whether said inside this hall or outside of it. Hindi tayo basta maniniwala sa ingay. We will evaluate everything dahil ang katotohanan ay hindi matatagpuan sa mga press release. Ito ay nakasandal sa mga dokumento at sa mga salaysay na sinumpaan. Sa totoo lang, nagos na nga tayo. Tila ginagaslight pa tayo. Ang mas mahalagang tanong ay kung nasaan ang pera. Ngunit ang sagot sa atin ay tungkol sa grado sa kolehiyo. And the worst part, this explanation is not being made here, but everywhere else. Ang gusto natin ay testimonya sa ilalim ng sumpa. Pero ang ibinibigay sa atin, press release at content sa social media. Again, let us be clear. Hindi tayo basta maniniwala. We will evaluate everything. Madriaga's testimony, COA documents, NBI findings, PSA certifications. Lahat ng ito ay kailangang iharap dito. Suriin dito. Timbangin dito. Pero dapat dito. Humarap ang kailangang humarap. Manumpa at magpaliwanag. Dito sa committee ito. Because this is the proper forum. Hindi sapat ang magsalita sa labas. If there's anything to clarify, the best and the only place to do that is here, before this committee, under oath and on record. And that brings us to today. Ngayong April 22, malinaw, the work of this committee continues. Ang mga isyong inilahad ay hindi natapos noong nakaraan. Today, we expect further evidence from the Office of the Ombudsman, from the Bureau of Internal Revenue, from the Securities and Exchange Commission, and especially from the Anti-Money Laundering Council. We also anticipate testimonies that will help contextualize the data before us, and that includes from former Senator Sani Trillanes. Kung mapapansin ninyo, ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon, mga numero. SALN, tax records from BIR, reports from AMLC. This is the part where the numbers have to be studied, compared, analyzed. And numbers, take note, unlike people, numbers do not have motives. Numbers do not lie. Again, numbers do not lie. At dito po, nagiging mas mabigat ang usapan. Because when we speak of numbers, we are no longer dealing with opinion, spin, or even narrative. We are confronting cold, unyielding facts. Hindi ito napapakiusapan. Hindi ito natatakot. Hindi ito napipilit magsinungaling. A number either matches or it does not. At higit sa lahat, hindi po ito basta numero lamang. Pera ito ng taong bayan. Pera ito ng manggagawang Pilipino na araw-araw kumakayod, ng pamilyang nagtitipid para makabayad ng buwis, ng bawat Pilipinong umaasa na ang kanilang ambag ay napupunta sa tama. A peso is either accounted for or it is missing. At kapag pinagsama-sama ang mga numerong ito mula sa SALN, BIR, AMLC, they begin to tell a story which no press conference can rewrite, no diversion can erase. Because numbers, once laid bare, speak with a clarity that cuts through noise. And when they point to a discrepancy, they do not whisper. They demand to be answered. Kung ayaw magsalita ng tao, kung ayaw humarap ng vice-presidente, hayaan natin na ang mga numero ang magkwento. Sa hearing na ito, we shall therefore enter the territory of forensic truth. Sa pamamagitan ng mga numerong ito, malalaman natin ang tunay na pagkatao sa likod ng posisyon. Siya ba ay tunay na public servant o isa pa lang private billionaire? At ang direksyon natin ngayon ay simple, ngunit matibay. We follow the evidence wherever it leads. Hindi tayo magpapadala sa ingay. Hindi tayo lilihis sa proseso. Ang ating sandigan ay ang konstitusyon at ang ating layunin ay ang katotohanan. Because in the end, ang tanong ay hindi kung sino ang pinakamalakas ang boses. Hindi kung sino ang pinakamaingay sa labas, kundi kung saan tayo itinuturo ng ebidensya. As we see it now, the chair right before us, it remains empty. At tila, sanay na po tayo sa tanawing iyan. Ngunit kahit bakante ang upuang iyan, even if that chair remains empty, this room is full of the people's questions. Napakaraming tanong. Mga tanong na sa kabila ng pag-iwas, hindi mawawala. Sa kabila ng pananahimik, hindi maglalaho. Mga tanong na kailanman ay hindi kayang takasan ng bakanteng upuan. Not today. Not anymore. Let the evidence speak. Let the numbers testify. Let the chips fall where they may be. Let us finally resume this hearing. With that, this committee shall proceed.
Madam Chair.
The Chair, the Honorable Chua. The Chair directs the Committee Secretary to call the case.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara C. Duterte, filed by Reverend Father Joel Saballa et al. And endorsed by Representative Laila M. De Lima, and filed by Attorney Nathaniel G. Cabrera, and endorsed by Representatives Bienvenido M. Abante Jr. and Francisco Paulo P. Ortega V.
Let it be placed on the record that the Committee Secretary called the Vice President, and it appears that the Vice President is still not present in our hearing. The Chair likewise direct the Committee Secretary to call the complainants, at least to be acknowledged. COMSEC.
The complainants in the Saballa et al. Impeachment complaint: Father Joel Tadena Saballa, Father Rogelio del Rosario, Sister Geraldine Denoga, DC, Pinky Tam, Father Joselito Sarabia, CM, and Pastor Leonardo Arevalo, and the counsels for the complainants, Attorney Amando Virgil Ligutan and Attorney Stephen Magallon.
The Chair acknowledges the presence of complainants in Saballa et al. Complaint. The second impeachment complaint, COMSEC, please.
For the Cabrera impeachment complaint, Attorney Nathaniel G. Cabrera, complainant.
May we know if Attorney Cabrera is present? No one answered. Let it be placed on the record that while the Saballa et al. Complainant are present, Attorney Cabrera is not present in our hearing today. The chair likewise direct the committee secretary to call the resource person for today's hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the Committee on Justice, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the following resource persons. From the Office of the Ombudsman, Ombudsman Jesus Crispin C. Remulla, Assistant Ombudsman Jose Dominic F. Clavano IV, Assistant Ombudsman Luis Gonzaga S. Bonoan Jr., Assistant Ombudsman Armando S. Sanchez Jr., Attorney
Mr. Chairman,
Karen S.
Madam Chair, could we ask those called to acknowledge that they are present?
We are requesting the
Raise
resource persons to please
We already
rise
saw
as your names are called.
And we already saw the appearance and the acknowledgement of our colleague, Congressman or Ombudsman Remulla. Thank you.
For the succeeding resource persons, please rise as your names are called by the committee secretary.
Attorney Karen S. Batu, OIC of the CRD, Attorney Jeffrey L. Ravelo, GIPO3, Assistant Ombudsman Eliseo D.C. Cruz, Assistant Ombudsman Margaret Andaman. From the Bureau of Internal Revenue, BIR Commissioner Attorney Charlito Martin R. Mendoza, Deputy Commissioner Attorney Larry M. Barcelo, Deputy Commissioner Attorney Marisa O. Cabreros, OIC Regional Director Narciso T. Laguerta, Revenue District Officer Trinidad A. Villamil, Revenue District Officer Jefferson B. Taboga, Mr. Charlie I. Esto, OIC Revenue District Officer Joseph B. Arguelles, Revenue District Officer Joseph Melchor D. Ebalia, OIC Revenue District Officer Ellen S. Tampus, Miss Celia Rizalinda A. Mabanag, Miss Anne Lorraine C. Garcia Marquez, Attorney Rachel Caroline Villachon, Mr. Rupert Ambil, from the Securities and Exchange Commission, Attorney Gerardo F. Del Rosario, Attorney Romuald C. Padilla, Assistant Director Algin M. Lacanaria, from the Anti-Money Laundering Council, Executive Director Attorney Ronel U. Benaventura, Attorney Anthony Lawrence M. Morales, Attorney Arnold T. Cabanlit, Attorney Erano A. Dumale, and former Senator Antonio Sani F. Trillanes IV.
Thank you.
That's all, Your Honor.
Except for the resource persons who have taken their oath already during our last hearing on April 14, may we request the rest of the resource persons to please rise so that the oath will be administered. Comsec, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee? Thank you.
For the organized presentation of our evidence and resource persons, the chair would like to announce the order of presentation of our resource persons. The first will be the Ombudsman, followed by...
All right,
You-
that is the...
We were just watching the House Justice Committee resuming its hearings on the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte. Of course, not in attendance is VP Sara as expected.
Yes, but we've seen several spokespersons that were invited are present today. Nando doon si former Senator Antonio Trillanes and of course
Ombudsman.
Ombudsman Boying Remulla. And of course, after several hearings on the clarificatory proceedings about the misuse of, alleged misuse of the confidential funds and bribery, the attention now is turned doon sa money trail
That's correct. That's-
'Di ba doon sa SALN, 'di ba, yung kung may unexplained
Kaya nandun
wealth
si
ang VP.
former Senator Trillanes.
All right, we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. At this point, let's get updates from the House of Representatives. We have Mobile Journal Amy Atienza reporting live on the ground. Amy, go ahead.
Good morning, Angela Diego. Nagsisimula na nga yung ikatlong araw ng pagdinig ng House Justice Committee para nga dito sa mga inihaing reklamo laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte. Kani-kanina lamang, narinig na nga din natin si Committee Chairperson Jervy Luistro kung saan ginigiit niya pa rin na nasa Kamara daw ang unang direksyon, ang inisyatibo para nga magsimula yung ganitong mga usapin, lalo na dahil nga hindi biro yung ganitong mga kaso. At so far, ang nakita rin natin ngayon ay sisimula na agad ng House Justice Committee itong clarificatory questions sa pagtatanong ng mga members ng Justice Committee. Unang-una muna sa Office of the Ombudsman. Ang narinig natin dito, marami-rami yung gusto nga magtanong sa Office of the Ombudsman para nga doon sa mga clarifications nga tungkol sa unexplained wealth ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Pag-uusapan kasi natin, ito nga magiging usapin nga kasama ang Office of the Ombudsman. Nandiyan yung Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth ni Vice President Sara Duterte. At gaya nga din ang nasabi kanina ni Representative Luistro, numero ang pag-uusapan today. So kung nakaraan, confidential funds ang naging sentro ng usapin na talakayan dito sa Kamara. Ngayon naman ay yung unexplained wealth ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Kaya makakasama rin maya-maya ang Bureau of Internal Revenue, Securities and Exchange Commission, pati na rin ang Anti-Money Laundering Council para nga sa mga dokumento na kailangan nilang maipakita para mapagpatibay yung mga alegasyon na nakapaloob doon sa dalawang natirang reklamo laban kay VP Sara. At bukod pa dyan, maririnig din natin yung panayam, yung testimony ni resource person at former Senator Sonny Trillanes para din dito sa unexplained wealth ni VP Sara, maging yung kanyang may bahay o yung kanyang asawa na si Attorney Manasseh Carpio para nga ngayong araw. Angela, Diego?
So, bali, paglilinaw lang, Amy, dahil wala pa naman din kumbaga sagot ang korte doon sa TRO na pinasa o final nung asawa ni Vice President Sara Duterte, ay ngayon talagang matatalakay yung salin nila.
Yes, actually, Angela, kasi ang nasabi dito, April 14 pa lang daw, ay naipasa na ng BIR mismo yung mga dokumento na isinabina ng House Justice Committee sa kanila. So, hindi na talaga nag-take effect itong ating TRO na ipinasa ni Attorney Carpio doon sa BIR para hindi maipasa yung mga dokumento dahil nung nakaraan pa lang last week, April 14, ay nasa kamay na ng House Justice Committee yung mga dokumento na nakaugnay nga dito sa SAL-ins ni VP Sara pati ni Attorney Manasseh Carpio.
Alright, thank you so much, Mobile Journal Amy Atienza.
The International Criminal Court Appeals Chamber is set to rule on former President Rodrigo Duterte's challenge to its jurisdiction over his case. The 5-member panel will deliver its decision in open court at 11 a.m. in The Hague or 5 p.m. Manila time. Duterte has asked to skip the hearing and has designated his lawyers to represent him. In an interview with 1PH's Sa Totoo Lang, ICC accredited lawyer Attorney Gilbert Andres said there is a strong chance the court will affirm its jurisdiction, allowing the case to proceed. However, he said that if the appeal is rejected, all proceedings before the ICC would effectively end.
Sa analysis ko, wala pa pong International Criminal Tribunal na nagsasabing wala siyang jurisdiction. Wala pa po. Yeah. Kaya kung base lang po natin sa mga previous decisions ng ibang International Criminal Tribunals, malaki pong chance na i-affirm po yung jurisdiction.
Now, to help us break down what to expect from today's ICC ruling, we are joined by ICC Assistant to Counsel, Attorney Cristina Conti. Good morning, Attorney. Thank you for joining us again. Attorney, nakamit po ata kayo.
Yes, okay
Ayan.
na.
Ayan
Good
po.
morning.
Alright, Attorney, perhaps you can tell us ano po ba ang, kumbaga, gaano ka-importante itong ruling na ito mamaya na ibibigay po ng ICC Appeals Chamber, knowing na, yun nga po, appeal ito this is not the first time that they're going to rule about this case.
Well, even if it's an appeal, essentially, parang there is an earlier decision, it still is about jurisdiction. And that's a very fundamental issue. May kapangyarihan ba yung ICC na magsalita na silipin ang kaso in the first place? So I would say it's consequential, although we are confident that it will go our way. When you say jurisdiction, as in your, ano ba to, yung photo na pinakita nyo kanina, yung parang guide, what will happen if the decision of the pretrial chamber is reversed. Kumbaga, katigan yung apela ni na Duterte, sabihin na walang jurisdiction, everything falls. The investigation, the case against Duterte, everything will stop. And it could be that he will be released as soon as there is a specific order to release him.
Okay, so yun nga, no, may possibility if ever nga kung hindi yun ang magiging desisyon ng korte ay mapauwi siya. But, pero let's say for example, the court affirms the jurisdiction, what happens next procedurally? Kasi this is, just to give context po, no, iba po ito doon sa confirmation of charges ng hearing. This is the case of jurisdiction.
Yes, Angela. So, this case essentially will just tell us if the appeals chamber will stop the proceedings or will allow it to proceed. Yung proceedings na tinutukoy ko dun sa pretrial chamber. So if it's a yes, go ahead, proceed, then we turn our eyes on the pretrial chamber. Kung maalala po natin, ang inaasikaso ng pretrial chamber noong February ay yung confirmation of charges o pinag-uusapan nila ano ba yung scope ng charges. Meron bang ebidensya patungkol sa count 1, count 2, count 3, and so forth. And this is critical in the sense that when we proceed to trial, what are the charges that we will talk about? That decision is next week. 60 days after February 27, which was the last day of the hearing. Ang bilis din ng araw no? Kaya ako masasabi ko, parang nagsakto mauunang pagpasyahan yung jurisdiction, perfect. Kasi ang sasabihin nila, may jurisdiction tayo. And then, the following week, ang sasabihin nila, eto ngayon ang saklaw ng kaso.
So, pero attorney, moving forward, in case na-deny nga yung appeal regarding yung jurisdiction, moving forward, wala nang chance na i-challenge pa ng defense team ni former President Duterte ang jurisdiction ng ICC. In other words, they have to move on ngayon sa confirmation and then if ever positive, move on to the case already.
Well, yes. Ito na sa sinasabi ng Rome Statute ang pinakahuli. Bagaman binabanggit ko, parang pwede mong paraanan. Sa Pilipinas kasi may tinatawag tayong MR, Motion for Reconsideration. Walang ganyan sa ICC, pero I don't know kung susubukan nila. Ang narinig ko lang, mukhang hindi na. At para sa kanila, tanggap na nila kung sakaling hindi sila paboran ng ICC. Kaya para sa amin, makakahinga kami ng maluwag kung magfo-focus na talaga tayo doon sa substance. May kasalanan ba talaga si Duterte doon sa mga krimen na ipinaparatang?
Pero aside from that, attorney, how significant is this ruling pagdating naman sa usapin ng international justice system? No? Kasi, di ba, pinag-uusapan natin na baka maging president ito because ngayon pa lang talaga na challenge, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, attorney, itong usapin nga kung may jurisdiction ba ang ICC kapag nag-withdraw na yung isang miyembro dati ng Rome Statute.
Oo, tama. Ito ang kauna-unang pagkakataon na may bansa na lumapit sa ICC at sinabing, pagpasyahan nyo kami bilang former member state. 3 pa lang ang nagwi-withdraw. Yung Burundi, nauna sa atin, tayo, tapos ngayon Hungary. Hindi pa lang yata nagte-take effect. Kasi di ba may 1 year after ng lodging ng withdrawal, saka magte-take effect yung pagkakatanggal mo, pag-alis sa ICC. Yung Burundi, wala namang kasong nagpatuloy. Or hindi pa umuusad katulad ng sa atin. Yung Hungary, yun nga yung tanong nila Actually, ang lumabas, yung Hungary, nakatingin sa example natin. Bago pa man tayo masilip ng ICC, aatras na tayo. Ang epekto nito ay, in terms of politics, mawawalan ng opportunity, ng avenue, ang mga taong bayan, simpleng mamamayan, na magkaso sa isang international tribunal kung patungkol sa 4 na krimen, including war crimes and crimes against humanity. Ang lugi dito ay ang simpleng mamamayan dahil kung aapihin sila ng leader nila, kasi sa ICC mga leader o kaya mga kapangyarihang tao ang nadadala, yung option na pumunta sa international court mawawala sa karaniwang tao. Kaya ang bigat ng dagok para sa katulad natin, kung sakaling maapi-api ka, goodbye to the ICC. At para sa ibang bansa, ito naman ang example nun, or kumbaga ang message para sa mga leaders, wag na lang kayong sumali sa ICC para hindi kayo sumabit. Ang pangit naman nun, baka mamaya magkaubusan sa ICC.
Okay, what's next, Attorney? Assuming na all goes smoothly sa panig po ninyo, and this goes to trial, how soon after yung confirmation do we see the scheduling of the trial?
It could come as early as end of the year. Kaya paghandaan natin yan, baka lang mga winter season ulit, magsimula ang trial. Meron lang kasing logistics patungkol doon sa proceeding with trial. Una, ililipat tayo ng trial chamber from the pre-trial chamber. Bagong mga huwes. Pag-uusapan ng schedule or calendar ng hearings. Komplikasyon na si Duterte hindi pwedeng umupo daw ng mahigit 1 oras at any given time. So, mababawasan yung hearing times per day at posibleng mabawasan yung hearing days per week. Baka mamaya once every week lang, ganun ang lumabas ba? Kaya komplikasyon yon. Pagkatapos na masettle ang mga issue na yon, saka lang magpo-proceed with trial. We are hoping na by at least makaisang hearing by this year. Kasi yun na yung signal, go na yan. Kumbaga may schedule na yan. Moving forward.
Usually ba, Attorney, how frequent yung hearings per week? And is it imperative na may appearance si former President Duterte? Or pwede na naman ni former President i-waive yung right niya to appear in any of the hearings?
There's 5 days in the week. Sa ICC daw, kaya nila yung 5 days. Kung sasabihin ng parties, kaya namin yan. Pero usually, 2 to 4 days lang ang inaalat nila. Every day, there are 3 sessions, essentially. From 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock, nagsistart ang kanilang session. May mga breaks in between. Up to 4.5 hours per day ang hearings. Hindi ko alam kung anong mangyayari, iba-iba. Sa ibang kaso, 1 month na tuloy-tuloy na hearing, 1 month break. Sa ibang kaso, 2 weeks intervals, 2 weeks tuloy-tuloy, then 2 weeks wala. Depende yan sa una akusado, tapos doon sa parties, sa mga abogado. Pero ako, bago pa namin tingnan yon kasi sa trial, ang mas may magdidirihin yan ay yung Office of the Prosecutor. Sila ang magpapatunay kung may kasalanan ba o wala. Sa bahagi ng victims, so separate po yung legal team ng victims, meron tayong, naalala nyo, 3 common legal representatives at may mga katulong sila. Ang pagtutulong-tulungan nga namin, yung application ng mga biktima na gustong mag-participate. Not necessary po, hindi ibig sabihin na mag-witness pero at the least magpa-participate o makikilala ng korte na kalahok, hihinga ng views and concerns. So yun yung kumbaga exciting part para sa mga biktima.
Well, yun nga sinasabi natin dito, ang very interesting din dito kasi kung sino yung kumalas, 'di ba, na bansa dito sa ICC, yung leader na yon, siya rin yung dinididig ngayon doon sa ICC na for crimes against humanity. But Attorney Cristina, ano po yung kumbaga pinaka-reaction po ninyo dito sa pinakahuling kumbaga parang mensahe ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte bago itong magiging desisyon ng appeals chamber? Kasi sinabi through his daughter, Kitty Duterte, sinabi niya, if they ask how I'm doing, tell them Invictus.
Wow. Sige, tingnan natin ang kalalabasan. Ako, ang undertone nun ay I am well and I will fight until the end. So, positive po sa amin yun na although hindi lang direct, pero positive sa amin, nalalahukan niya itong laban na ito at sana he would mount kahit paano, good defense. Kasi sa ngayon, wala po kaming nakikita na, or medyo kalat-kalat pa, hindi namin maintindihan. Dinideny ba niya na nangyari ang mga krimen? Dinideny ba niya na systematic ang mga patayan? O dinideny ba niya na may kasalanan siya o may role siya doon? Doon sa defense natin makikita yan. Pero mauuna nating maririnig yung prosecution. At thankful ako sa prosecution na kahit ayaw sumipot ni Duterte, alam niyo na, galawang, parang ganun din si VP Sara di ba? Ayaw magsisisipot kapag panahon na ng husgahan, nagiging present siya sa pamamagitan ng mga videos na ipinapakita ng ICC nung panahon ng kalakasan niya. At importante yan para sa kaso at importante yan para sa taong bayan. Kaya kung ako, yung hindi niya pagdalo, yung pagpapaabot niya ng messages sa mga anak niya lang, tingin ko parang hindi ba nun? Tingin ko parang hindi pinagpapahalagahan ang mga supporter na naghahanap sa kanya at humihiling na siya mismo ang mag-address o magsalita sa kanila.
Alright, on that note, maraming salamat muli sa inyong oras. We hope to talk to you again tomorrow after nga po itong magiging desisyon ng ICC Appeals Chamber. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. As always, ICC Assistant to Counsel, Attorney Cristina Conti. Good morning.
Salamat.
In other news, former Vice President and Naga City Mayor Leni Robredo has ruled out plans to run for any national position in the 2028 elections. In an interview with RMND WNX Naga, Robredo explained that she still has several unfinished programs and projects in the city that she wants to continue. She said she intends to seek a second term as mayor of Naga City instead.
Bukas daw talaga sa ideya, as in sa pangapudan sa lado nasyonal na magpartisipar kagiraray sa presidential election.
Day na, Ed.
Okay.
Sigurado na ako sa sarili ko na day na ako ma-national. Sa hiling ko, day ita matatapos na bus. Ako most probably masik pa ako ng second term.
Robredo also acknowledged that there are people encouraging her to run for the presidency, but reiterated that her priority is her current role as mayor.
Aware man ako na may mga gustong magdalagan pa ako. Pero kuya, mas ako si kaipuhan ni Moon Pornaga. Bako man akong solo na may kumbaga may kapas na mag-lead. Narayo na sa horizon ko na mabalik pa ako sa national.
Justice Secretary Frederick Vida has denied reports that former lawmaker Zaldico is not in the custody of the Czech Republic. Vida said the government has already begun the process of bringing Ko back to the Philippines. He added that Czech authorities cannot provide photographs confirming Ko's custody due to strict data privacy laws in the country. Vida also noted that Ko was arrested alongside another individual while allegedly attempting to enter Germany.
Exact proseso, wala pang definite. But where the Philippine government is exploring all available legal processes to bring him back. Okay? As to the definite mode, it will still be known in the coming days. And the intention is to be able to meet with the Czech authorities so that we can thresh out possible submittals that we still need to submit.
Proceedings are underway at the Sandigan Bayan as the bail hearing of former Senator Bong Revilla resumes today. For the latest, we go live to Mobile Journal Arles de los Santos. Arles, go ahead.
Angela at Diego, lumalabas nga na kahit wala ang pirma ni na dating Bulacan 1st District Engineer official Henry Alcantara at Assistant District Engineer nito na si Bryce Hernandez doon sa monthly certificate of payment ng subject project ng kasong malversation ni dating Senador Bong Revilla sa Pandi, Bulacan ay nai-release pa rin ang pondo para rito. Ayan ang lumutang sa pagharap ng prosecution witness na si Genevieve Quaresma, Finance Director ng DPWH dito sa 3rd Division ng Sandigan Bayan. Kaugnayan ng 92.8 million o Monoy Ghost Flood Control Project nga sa Pandi, Bulacan. Ani Quaresma, kaduda-duda ang illegal at hindi raw dapat na-release ang monthly payment para sa contractor nito na Sims Construction dahil nga wala yung pirma ni Hernandez at Alcantara na dapat ay final signatory doon sa disbursement ng pondo. Nang tanongin naman ni Associate Justice Ronald Moreno kung sino nga ba ang gumagawa ng monthly disbursement payment, dito na nabanggit yung mga kapwa-akusado pa ni Revilla na sina JP Mendoza, na siya namang chief ng construction section ng DPWH Bulacan 1st District Engineering Office, gayon din si RJ Dumasig na project engineer ng naturang proyekto. Nasilip din yung ministerial duty ng cashier ng DPWH Bulacan 1st DEO na si Cristina Pineda, na sinasabi in practice kapag lumabas na yung monthly disbursement and yung LDAP, supposedly pipirmahan niya na lamang ito assuming or with the presumption na nasunod nga at kumpleto yung mga dokumento dito. Medyo kanina nagisa lamang na kaunti yung testigo ng prosekusyon dahil inamin nito na wala siyang direkta na interaksyon kay dating Senador Bong Revilla at sa mga kapwa-akusado nito. Pero ang naging taktika ng prosekusyon ay ipepresenta nila ang witness na ito na si Genevieve Quaresma para maintindihan ng mga husgado ng Sandigan Bayan 3rd Division ang proseso at legal na pamamaraan kung paano nga ba na ilalabas ang pondo ng DPWH. Wala naman dito ang dating senador na si Bong Revilla matapos itong payagan ng korte, pero bukas inaasahan na haharap siya dito kung saan inaasahan din natin ang paghaharap nila ni dating DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bertardo.
Alright, maraming salamat sa iyong oras, Mobile Journal Arles de los Santos.
And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
But don't forget to tune in here on News for the ongoing impeachment hearing for against Vice President Sara Duterte. And of course, tune in also for the result or the ruling of the appeals chamber ng ICC for the case of jurisdiction of former President Rodrigo Duterte.
5 p.m. yan Manila time, 11 o'clock sa The Hague.
Alright, join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Angelo Castro III. Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides, all the time.